Hello everyone and welcome to the Bandit's Den. Well, today I want to talk some more about what's going on in New Mexico and how the news is out there and stuff. Now, this came across my desk and this is something I have very personal experience with. And so, let's get straight into it. This is about federal buildings in New Mexico land on DOGE chopping block. And it's got this video from KOB4, so let's check it out, if it'll play.
I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it.
DOGE and Elon Musk got applause from one side of the gallery last night and a lot of boos from the other during the joint address.
Now, whether you support what DOGE is doing or not, the actions being taken are confusing and controversial to some.
You know, I just don't find the actions to be confusing at all. What was promised was to reduce the bureaucracy, and what they're doing is reducing the bureaucracy. It's pretty straightforward to me.
And that confusion and controversy has now made its way to the land of enchantment. Last night, we started digging into buildings used by the feds here in New Mexico.
Because they are now on DOGE's list to either close or sell.
Tamara Lopez has been combing through the DOGE website. So, Tamara, let's start off with the website itself, because some say it can be confusing if you don't already really know what you're looking for.
Tessa, Trevor, it can be confusing even when you do know what you're looking for. So this is the homepage, doge.gov, and as you expect from Elon Musk, on the front page it has posts from the social media page X of DOGE's posts. But when you click over here on savings, it takes you to estimated savings and amount saved per taxpayer. Of course, this website and these goals.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty, not confusing and simple and straightforward.
This is really all about saving money. So if you scroll down here, you'll see agency efficiency leaderboard, and then it has totals for every department. And if you keep scrolling, you'll see what's called the wall of receipts. So this is meant to show you agencies and the total values for them. And if you keep scrolling, what we're talking about today, past the grants, is the real estate list of leases. So one of the leases is a Forest Service building, and we matched the location through tax records and property size listed here on the DOGE website. So it's listed as terminated via mass mod. That just means that the change was part of a revision to multiple contracts at once. Other terminations were cited as a need for consolidation. So the Forest Service has also been part of widespread layoffs, including ones here in New Mexico. So we did reach out to the U.S. Forest Service today, and a spokesperson did not confirm the building, give a termination timeline, or how many people could be affected. But we did get a statement saying Secretary Rollins fully supports the president's directive to improve government, eliminate inefficiencies, and strengthen USDA's many services. The USDA made the decision to release 2,000 probationary non-firefighting employees and says it's unfortunate the Biden administration hired thousands of people with no plan in place to pay them for long term. Now, in Albuquerque, General Services Administration building is also on that list. A GSA is the government's basically office manager. The office manages government buildings and real estate like a property manager for federal buildings. So we reached out.
That's a pretty large building for that sort of thing. I mean, it's not that big of a city, right? Look how huge the building is. Like, do we need that many administrative people, like, telling maids to go clean the places and telling maintenance crews to go fix the places? I doubt it, man.
Out to the Regional General Services Administration office and asked what specific locations the lease DOGE referenced. A spokesperson for GSA says they're still looking into specifics, but in the meantime, They sent us this statement saying, in part, the current vision for GSA includes supporting the return to office of federal employees. And the spokesperson also says they were working to find suitable alternative spaces. And we'll have both of those full statements for you on KOB.com. Now, I also recently spoke with Congressman Gabe Vasquez about these DOGE lease cuts. And here's what he had to say about the impact on New Mexico.
These cuts aren't just unpredictable, they're irresponsible.
You know, I don't think they're that unpredictable. They're cutting down the bureaucracy is what they're doing. They're getting rid of management positions that aren't necessary. They're getting rid of, in this case, leases that they deem not necessary. And let me tell you something about my experiences with the U.S. Forest Service. My experience. Okay. So I was on one of the first ever construction sites I set foot on was the U.S. Forest Service building over there on Jefferson and Masthead. This was built, 15, 18 years ago, something like that. And I started as a laborer in construction. And so one of my tasks when I first got there was to dig a 2-foot deep trench all the way around the whole damn building. It's a big ass building. And it's 5 stories tall. It's a huge building. The footprint is massive. It took me 2 weeks to dig that trench, and I had a couple other guys helping me from time to time. It was rough. It was rough going. My hands were bleeding. Anyways, this was a massive building. It still is. It's still there. And the thing is, after I got into the electrical trade, I was on a service crew at a company, and they just happened to be the company that worked on that building all those years ago. And this was only a few years back I was in there servicing it. It was, I believe it was right before all the COVID crap. So what was going on there, I didn't like at all. I usually don't like what's going on in offices, period, when I go to a service call at an office. Smaller companies, the office people are usually a lot more responsible and like actually doing their job. The U.S. Forest Service building is this massive building that can accommodate up to like 300 employees. Their parking lot was filled with luxury vehicles and latest model vehicles. And nobody did a damn thing there. I was in there changing out lights for like a week, and I watched their daily activities. And I looked at what people were doing. There were some of the popular kids. It was like high school all over again, watching these people. There were like popular kids who had, the popular cubicles to hang out in. And 3 or 4 people would go hang out at those people's cubicles. The less social people would just hang out in their cubicles playing shit like Candy Crush. And they would just goof off all day. And then they would have SA seminars once a day or so. And they would have to sit in seminars and talk about how all men are rapists and stuff like this. And how white people are racist and crap like that. And so they never got anything done from what I saw. I didn't see anybody actually working on anything the whole time I was there changing out lights. And this is a 5-story building. Taxpayers are paying for this stuff, and every person that worked in the building had a way nicer car than I did. Of course, I was an apprentice back then. I wasn't making very much money because I was just getting started in the career. But it was upsetting to me because I'm like, man, these people get to hang out in a climate-controlled building. They get a bunch of free coffee and snacks while they're here, and they just sit on their asses and goof off all day. And people like me who work outside in all kinds of weather conditions, who work their hands to the bone. Like I was just about to the bone when I was digging that trench around that building when I was first getting into construction. Like I was gonna say, my hands were literally bleeding because I got blisters on top of blisters on top of blisters. And I just had to keep digging because I had to keep working. And so my hands were bleeding. Some people called me pussy hands because my hands were soft and they would get torn up digging all those trenches. So I had to do that kind of stuff, and here's these people getting paid with my tax money that comes off of my checks from working my ass off like that, sitting in a really nice climate-controlled place, free snacks and crap at work, goofing off, getting paid to do nothing off of my dime. And that pissed me off. I'll never forget that. Bureaucracy is what it is. All of these people are like the gatekeepers of process and crap in that building. Nothing ever gets done in New Mexico. And these people are so upset about this bureaucracy getting torn apart. I don't understand why. These reporters are not government employees. Their taxes are going to the same bullshit. You know, and if they were really about reporting on stuff, they would investigate, well, what are they doing at this building? And they would go check it out. Maybe send somebody incognito, or shit, ask somebody like me who is impartial and has gone in that place to maintain their systems. Hey, what's going on in there, Albuquerque Bandit? Oh, I could tell you what's going on in there. A whole bunch of nothing. And our taxes are paying for it. Well, I think it's good that our taxes are no longer going to be paying for as much nothing. I'm sure they're not going to weed out all of it, but I'm looking forward to a lot of that crap getting cut out. Because it's a waste of damn money. And nowadays, I see something like $18,000 or $20,000 coming out of my wages every year. Like, that's a really nice new car to me. You know? That's a down payment on a house that they're taking out of my money every year. Did I say week? Every year. That's how much I'm getting taxed. It's a crap ton of money. And a good portion of that is going to a bunch of people that don't do anything all day, and they're just the gatekeepers of process. And maybe they'll get one or two things done. Like, oh man, I'm gonna rant again. Have you seen that thing about how they were sent that email to list 5 things that they've done this week? They were blowing their stacks over it. Like, really? Is this what it's come down to? It's like, really? Can you not list 5 things you did this week? I did an exercise when I heard about that, and I decided I'm going to try to write down 5 things that I did today at work, and I came up with 15. It's some sorry shit if a person can't come up with 5 things they did that week. That just goes to show you how useless these bureaucrats are. Anyway, let's finish this.
We've seen a one-size-fits-all approach to cutting government leases, jobs, funding freezes that are impacting ranchers and farmers across our district, impacting mothers, impacting veterans, impacting service providers that
How? How is it?
deliver food to families.
There's no reasoning. They don't explain how. It's just all this scare tactics crap.
Now, last night I told you the Department of Energy building in Carlsbad was on this list, and we checked just before the newscast. It's still there. And the Carlsbad mayor on Tuesday gave us a statement saying it was a miscommunication and the lease remains intact. We reached out again today to the Carlsbad WIT facility, and a spokesperson says she's still waiting for official word from the main office before providing any more information. So we'll be sure to let you know if the Skeen Whitlock building does lose its lease.
So that has to do with WIC. And the guy said this is affecting women, and this is a WIC bureaucracy plant or whatever that they're talking about, and she's saying that now they investigated it and it's not a problem. I mean, they can't even get their fucking story straight. Anyways, there's another thing I wanted to talk about. How far are we into this? 14 minutes. I hate bureaucracy, so I'm happy to see it burn. That's what I voted for, right? I wanted to see some bureaucracy get taken down. So, yeah, this is another thing I wanted to talk about. A lot of people have been talking about the abortion thing, because everybody's like, women's rights in general are getting taken away. The only right that could possibly be at stake here, which the executive branch has already stated that they're not going to touch it any further. It's already out of the Fed's hands anyway, due to the overturning of Roe versus Wade, right? And so the Feds, as far as they've said during the campaigning process, are not going to be doing anything further about it and just leave it up to the states, which is one less thing they have to deal with. But let's talk about this, okay? Look at this. All right. Now, I know AI is not always completely reliable, but this is an accurate compiling here of statistics. I asked, what percentage of abortions are just unwanted pregnancies? It says approximately 61% of unintended pregnancies end in abortion. And about 95% of abortions are the result of unintended pregnancies. And that's all it is, really. The other 5%, I suppose, are the fringe reasons why people want to keep it legal across the board. Now, people just, they have trouble these days processing nuances and being like, well, you know, we can build something for exceptions for this, 5% of cases. And see, my concern is, well, yeah, this is a reproductive rights issue that affects both men and women, you see. Well, yeah, there's going to be a lot more guys paying child support and crap if abortion were to be less accessible, I guess. But my problem here is, okay, people see this in black and white. My issue is 95% of abortions don't really need to happen. There are people who want to adopt kids. Some people just should be more responsible with what they're doing with their lives and with what's between their legs. And should probably, not be screwing around with somebody. If they don't intend on, if that person they don't think is a good partner, well then they shouldn't be screwing around, right? And it does take two to tango here. But the reason I used to be pro-abortion across the board, and the reason this is one of the only political things that I've changed my mind on over time, is because I had a girlfriend that got pregnant, and we had agreed before this that, if something happens or whatever, then we'll figure it out together. And we had already, before this, we had already agreed that we were each other's forever partners. Like, we were going to do everything we could to make our relationship work and all of this stuff. Well, the deal ended up being defunct on her side ultimately. But so she got pregnant, and she was like, I have to get an abortion now. That was her knee-jerk reaction. And I was like, well, you don't really have to kill our kid. I mean, look at all these things we've been talking about. Like, you're just going to throw that all out the window or what? And she started going off on this crazy tirade that I think was the result of feminist indoctrination. She was talking about how disgusting it is. There's a parasite inside of her and stuff like this. And
user joined your channel.
Ultimately, she ended up going through with the abortion against my will, and that was pretty painful. Ultimately, toward the end of our relationship, she used it to further inflict damage on me, and said that the reason why she got an abortion wasn't because she didn't want a kid, which was her cited reason at the time. she said that wasn't why. Actually, the reason why is because she thinks I'm a terrible person and that I shouldn't be reproducing and that I don't deserve to have children and all of this stuff. So she was just an exceptionally unhinged and unstable and cruel person. And I just don't think people like that should be given unlimited access to this kind of stuff. Like, the alternative problem is, well, if the kid ends up with her, the kid will be just as deranged and unhinged as she is if she raises the kid that way. Well, we could put some checks and balances in for that kind of stuff. But also, if people didn't have that option available to them, essentially using abortion as birth control, maybe they would be a little bit more responsible with how they sleep around. Look at all these chicks that are like, oh, I'm not going to sleep around anymore now that the right-wingers have office. And I forget if I made a video about this or talked about it in a previous video, but my position is, well, that's good. You go ahead and don't do that. Because really, that's what a lot of the traditionalists and right-wingers would want you to do anyway. Quit sleeping around, which reduces the likelihood that you're going to use abortion as birth control and kill a baby. And you know, you'll fuck up your mind a little bit less, and so maybe you'll be a better partner in the future for somebody. And so, anyway, that's my whole story on why I've changed my position on abortion, because, you know, that was pretty bothersome to me. It was like a rug pull, right? It was like one of those crypto rug pulls, except relationship style, where I thought everything was going great. I thought it was, you know, we had talked about these things multiple times, and we had developed a concrete foundation, and then before I knew it, all of that concrete just instantly turned into sand in front of my very eyes. And it just washed away. And it was super upsetting to me. So it got me to thinking. You guys know I'm vegan, right? And in my ideology, I grant moral consideration to bivalves. Bivalves, you guys know, mussels and clams and oysters. Bivalves don't even have a brain. They have ganglia, which is like a cluster of nerves, so they can perceive pain. They can kind of, I guess, perceive the world around them. I don't know how sentient they are as a result of not having a brain or having pretty much a primordial version of a brain that can't really constitute as one. But it's a cluster of nerves. I can't know how sentient they are or what they want in life, or even if they do think. But I give them the benefit of the doubt. I grant them moral consideration because I don't want to even hurt them. I want to reduce my causation of harm to others as much as I practicably and possibly can, right? And I extend that to bivalves. They are animals. So, you know, my question to vegans, which most vegans are pro-choice, right? They're pro-killing unborn babies. This always ruffles their feathers, man. I am a minority of vegans in being mostly pro-life. We'll get into that later. I really ruffle their feathers when I ask them, okay, so we grant moral consideration to bivalves. Why are we not granting moral consideration to a living thing that is more complex and has more potential to be sentient in that current state than a bivalve does? Because I think it's at 6 weeks the fetus starts developing a brain, and at that point it is definitely, undeniably, more complex and more capable of sentience than a bivalve is, because it actually has a brain where a bivalve does not. 6 weeks, and in most cases that's like way too early for somebody to even like realize they missed their period, get diagnosed, and find out they're pregnant. Usually it's 6 weeks and after where all of that happens, and then the abortion comes after that. And so it really doesn't fall within my moral framework or any other vegan's framework who grants moral consideration to bivalves, it doesn't fit in our framework in reality. That we should think abortion is fine to be used as birth control. And this really ruffles their feathers because they know it's true. And so I go around the vegan community, which I've been I've been banned from a good part of it because I am a minority of vegans as far as being pretty right-wing, being mostly pro-life, right? And then the conservatives, they call me a fence sitter on this because I'm like, my ideal world would be where abortion is illegal for the vast majority of cases. That 95%. This 95% right here. An abortion happening just because it's an unintended pregnancy, right? I would want it to be illegal for all of those cases. It's not the baby's fault that you decided to fuck around and find out. It's not the baby's fault. Why are they paying the price? Besides, you're a mother. You should give a fuck about your kid. And if you don't give a fuck about your kid because you're not going to commit to this guy, then what are you doing? What are you doing whoring around? Women are the selectors. You are the ones that select who your partner is, right? Because dudes can just sling their shit at anybody. So men don't have to use discretion as much. Evolutionarily and biologically. Don't have to use their discretion as much. As a matter of fact, evolutionarily, it's probably better for the strongest men to just go around slinging mud. Just throwing their shit everywhere. Whereas women should be selective because they only get one shot every year at this thing and making it right? And so they're in a more precarious position just by definition of how biology works. And yeah, it's not fucking fair. Nothing is ever fair. We're not born all equal. We are not. I am stronger than some other men even. I am prone to be stronger genetically than some other men. And some other men are prone to be stronger genetically than I am. There's taller men than me who get a lot more pussy than I ever have. And there's a lot of men who are shorter than me. And then there's all kinds of wonky ups and downs and in-betweens and lefts and rights and crap in all of this. So no, we're not all equal. And that includes our reproductive process. It's not equal. It's not as fair for women. But that's how it is, honey. So, what am I getting at here? The reason I'm a fence sitter is because, for rape, I mean, it's still not the baby's fault, but damn, that's a shitty position to be in, and it'd be a shitty position for them to be in the future as well, potentially. And incest, and the event where the pregnancy is almost certainly going to threaten the woman's life. Because it wouldn't be good for a kid to grow up without their mother because they killed their mother, essentially, on the way out. Even though it's unintended, that's a lot of guilt for a kid to work through. That's a lot of guilt for anybody to work through. And then lacking that other parent's perspective in the child rearing process would be potentially detrimental to them. Even though single fathers, as far as that one statistic is, single fathers are just as statistically likely or unlikely to rear a repeat felon, a fucking prison gangbanger, as a married couple are. The single mothers win the cake on putting out the most of them per capita, most of the criminals. So, single fathers on that statistic alone are on par with married couples. So, there is that, but still, it's unfair. And we have a medical procedure that could save her life. I'm vegan, like I said, but if there was a bear coming at me and I have my gun, I always have my gun. Here it is, right here. I always have my gun, right? if there's a bear coming at me, well, this isn't a very big gun. It only fires 9mm projectiles, but it's got 7 of them. I'm going to shoot my best shot with all 7 shots and try to stop that fucking bear. It's not the bear's fault, really, because it doesn't have any moral agency. It's not the bear's fault it's coming at me. And, but, you know, I want to survive. I'm interested in surviving. And so, while it's not the bear's fault, I'm going to do my best to stay on this planet as long as I can. Because survival is a right that each individual tries to grant themselves, right? Survival is in each individual's best interest. And so that's an okay scenario in which to kill is in order to survive. Same thing with pregnancies. But conservatives call me a fence sitter. So anyway, at the end of all of this, if I can't have my perfect world, right? Because libtards want, they want abortion to be legal across the board. And then conservatives want abortion to be completely illegal across the board. Which one would I choose? I would choose the conservative stance where abortion is illegal across the board. Because looking at this statistic again, 95% of abortion are just unwanted pregnancies. So that means 5% of them potentially. And I'm granting this very generously, that 5% of them are, 5% of abortions are because the pregnancy is directly threatening the life of the mother. Assuming that is the case, then the least harm to the fewest individuals would be to have abortion completely illegal across the board. Because that means here that only 5% of pregnancies that would have been abortions otherwise are where the mother dies. And this is a very generous statistic, I'm granting it, right? Then the other 95% abortions are where the abortion is happening just as birth control. And so that's 95% harm versus 5% harm. It's a pretty easy call for me to make. Have you guys heard of the trolley problem? I'm sure most of you have, but let's go over it just in case some of you have not heard of it. So this is the original, the trolley problem. This, I don't know what the fuck this list is. I guess there's absurd ones down below. But level 1, this is the original. This is the original trolley problem. You find yourself here at a lever. There's a trolley, and then there's a fork in the tracks. The trolley is going straight, and it's going to run over some number of people. Plural people. I don't know. I've seen different examples where it's 3. This one is 5. So in this one, it's going to run over 5 people, and it's going to fucking kill them. This trolley is like really big, and it's just going to chop them up into pieces, and they all fucking die. Or you could pull the lever and make it turn and run over this one person. Well, as far as utilitarianism goes in morality, and I employ a lot of utilitarianism in my moral framework, as far as that goes, it would be morally preferable to make the trolley turn and run over this one person. Now, people make it spicy, and they're like, oh, well, you know, what if this one person is your sister, your brother, your mom, your dad, your uncle, whoever the fuck you care about the most? Your dog, if you don't like humans at all. You know, it's your dog or your cat or your favorite bird that you like to see out your window when you're feeding birds. Whoever. Versus these people you don't even know. Then what? Well, a lot of people change from utilitarianism to their familiarity moral framework and run over all 5 people to save the one that they're familiar with. But for strict utilitarianism, that would be wrong. So, for strict utilitarianism, as far as abortion goes, we would have to, I guess, we could still care about that 5% of women who would have had an abortion because their pregnancy is threatening their life directly. You know, we can still care about them, but we care more about the 95% of individuals who are being slaughtered just because somebody wanted to get down at the club and then not have to deal with the problem 9 months down the road for 18 years after that. And they usually get rid of the problem like 3 to 6 months after they get down at the club, right? And all of it is not for pleasure. A lot of people try to talk to me like this is some kind of necessity. Like, oh, in order to survive, this is a survival thing. Oh, you know, well, just don't have sex. If you're going to have trouble surviving, and see, this is the thing that I discussed with that chick that killed our kid, is, well, I was approaching the ability to pay all outright for an entire family because I was working on my career, right? And so I was approaching that breaking point in my career where I would be able to support a whole family all on my own. And we wouldn't have any financial problems. And that's why we had those discussions. Like, yeah, no, we can get down. We could handle a pregnancy or even two with the income I'm projecting to be having in the next year or two. And we'll be completely fine. And so that's why I made the decision, okay, we can get down. Okay, it's fine if you get pregnant. And, you know, we can choose to keep or adopt. So, yeah, as far as the abortion thing goes, my ideal world would be where these 5% of women who are potentially having their life threatened by the pregnancy would be able to get a legal medical procedure known as abortion in order to save their life. And that's assuming that they didn't know that they would have life-threatening complications in a pregnancy before they got down and started trying. Now, once you get down and start trying for a baby, and then you find out, oh crap, this is going to happen every time where it threatens my life and I'm going to die. Well, that's the point where either you become sterilized or you only hook up with people who are sterilized. And preferably that's just one person. So how the fuck else are you going to have a functional relationship? This whole polyamorous thing is out of fucking control. It's not a real thing. It's just monkey branching in disguise. That's all it is. And for anybody that doesn't know the term monkey branching, I think the MGTOW dudes came up with that. It's where a person, you know, secures another partner that may be more appealing than the other one before ending the current relationship, so then they can end the current relationship and monkey branch over to the higher branch, or the perceived higher branch. About half the time it doesn't work out too well, and it turns out that branch is way fucking lower. So it's a risky move, but everybody thinks it's always insured. Line go up. That's what everybody's obsessed with. Line go up. See, the reason I could rant about line go up for days as well, but let's not get off topic. So that's my perspective. My perfect world, 95% of abortions would be illegal procedures, and there would be legislation dictating that. And then the other 5% would be completely fine, legal medical procedures, life-saving medical procedures. Because the other ones, it's like, well, don't throw your pussy all over the fucking club. And you won't be in this situation, right? Don't be irresponsible and start trying for a baby, because we all know what that looks like. Don't start trying for a baby when you're not ready for one. Because I've told chicks in the past, when I was for abortion, I told chicks in the past, I was like, hey, you know, I'm a crazy criminal, career criminal, I'm a party guy, I'm crazy, I would not make a good father right now. And I'm not in a responsible position in order to properly care for somebody else. And so, if anything happens and you're against abortion, that's fine. There's still another A that we can go to, which is called adoption. So we have multiple options we can take here. So yeah, I mean, shit, you could still throw your pussy around in the club, even when abortion is illegal, because this isn't black and white. There's nuances. You can put your baby up for adoption, unless you like smoking crack too, which makes it a little bit harder to adopt your baby out. But do you really want to admit that you're a crack smoker? You guys have a good one. It's good to see all of you again. Thanks for joining me on this. Have a good night. Peace.